Welcome to Advanced Scheduling Calendar View. The Calendar View is an Outlook-style calendar interface. Display the selected day, week, or month in a familiar Outlook-style presentation. Add new appointments, reschedule or reassign existing appointments without creating conflicts. Use the recorder to record time on site as well. First, we'll start with the navigation pane. I'll minimize the pane to start with so you can see the navigation pane. Let's open that up. We can select a day by simply clicking on the day. Notice these black entries, that means I've visited those days before, and those appointments are loaded into memory. If I want to load another day, I can click on that. We can increase the pane size to view more calendars if we wish. You can do that vertically as well, but I can't do that in the resolution that I'm presently in. If I want to view more than one day, I can simply hold my Shift key and paint as many days as I want, and you'll see that 2 days are now appearing on screen. You can paint a whole month as well if you want, but there are other ways to see an entire month. Another nice feature is to view non-contiguous days. If you hold the Control key down, you can press all Fridays, for example. Now I bring up all the Fridays onto screen. You might have a staff member that works Fridays only and you want to schedule them on a particular Friday. To look at today's jobs, simply select today and press the Go button. To look at tomorrow's jobs, you can see there in my sample data, I've moved to tomorrow. Move back to today. An important function is the active state of a resource, those resources that have time entries and those that don't. For now, I'm going to pin the navigation pane away to gain more screen real estate. So these 3 icons up here will determine what we're viewing on screen. And we can see here, if we have no grouping, we just see Friday's entries with no groupings at all. We see all resources at once. It can be obviously a very messy view if we have many resources. The second option, which is the default option, is to see active appointments only, and that shows you all those resources that have appointments today. And the third option is to show all resources even if they don't have appointments, and if I move across we'll see resources here. There's some equipment resources that don't have appointments. So we do have 3 resource types. There's employee resources, there's equipment resources, I see some equipment resources there, and there's subcontractor resources, and we can schedule all 3 types of resources. There are 2 types of hovers. If we hover over a resource, we get information about that resource. So there's some employee information, skill sets, work groups, etc. If we hover over an equipment resource, we'll get information about that equipment. And if we hover over a subcontractor resource, we get information about the subcontractor. The other type of hover is your appointment, which will give you information about your customer and the job. If I hover over this job, you'll see here we're seeing information about the job, what type it is, it's computer repair, and we are also seeing that the job number, the details of the customer, so forth, status of the job, priority. All that information can be customized in Tools Options. If we go to Labels, you can see here the hover information over here on the right. So when I hover, that's the information that we've customized. Just select a field on the left and include it. And down here is the label entry format. So this is the label entry here that we're seeing on screen, and you can determine what appears and in what order they appear by simply dragging a field down. So if you want the contact name to be there, we can drag the contact name down and they'll appear on the label. Obviously where a label's small, we only see the start entry first, so if you want the customer to be first, that's often a good option. When you clicked on an appointment, we can right-click, or anywhere on screen really, you can right-click and you can get options from there. If I'm on an existing appointment, however, I obviously get more options. I can add a new appointment, I can open an appointment, I can delete, I can split an appointment, I can start a recorder for that appointment, I can open the related job, or I can refresh the job, I can view in the job schedule or view in the job list, I can view in routing, maybe get a map of that direction, and I can look at site business hours for that customer and maybe have a look at a customer history. So let's start by adding a new appointment. To add a new appointment, just click a blank area where obviously that person is free at that time. You can draw more than 1 hour if you wish, or modify the time to right to the minute. Right click and insert an appointment. There are two types of appointments. There's a job-related appointment, which is your default, and there's a non-job related, which would be to uncheck that entry. Non-job related might be you're away sick or on holidays, or you might be at the dentist or at the doctor, so forth. So let's start off with a non-job related entry. Take a notation, and we'll add a note here and saying, gone fishing. And we can select OK. And you can see I have a non-job related appointment here, gone fishing. To add a job related appointment, I can simply, we'll do one for Andrea, we'll grab a blank area, I'll make that a 2-hour appointment. Press the insert button or add appointment, right click. Now I can add to an existing job by simply choosing my finder and selecting an existing job. Take that one there. That's got some equipment, so we're working on that equipment. I can modify my estimates here right to the minute if I wish. And I can add notes for that as well, but we'll do that later. All right, so you can see there, I've created a non-job appointment, I've created an appointment for an existing job, and now let's create an appointment for a new job. So this is a common workflow where you're on the phone with the customer and they'd like you to come out. You've identified a free person that's unassigned that can do the work, and we can right-click to add an appointment. Now there are two ways to start a new job. We can use the basic document entry function, or we can use the document search function. So let's do a job using the normal standard process first. And it's not a training session on ServiceManager itself, so we'll just move along quickly here. There's our agreement plan, our over credit limit, and our contact details. We choose a job type, so it might be for a turbine service, it could be maintenance job, it could be any type of job that you're doing. So I might, as we're going to use a turbine service, I'm going to service a turbine, just change this quickly so we can move on. And we'll just press accept. And we'll add a job quickly. I'll just change that as well. Okay, and we've created a job. We might add a note there quickly. Customer requires urgent attention. And we've got a job in the system. And we'll start it from the booking time. And you can see there that we've now added a new job into the system. Now, I use the normal document entry feature there. Let's do one using the search feature. So again, we might be on the phone. We'll use the search function. You might know the serial number. The customer might be familiar with the serial number of the equipment. And we can see we've found our turbine. So that's what we're working on. And we're going to use the turbine control template, press add. So no power as the reported problem. Save the job. and we might want the time to be allocated to the turbine itself. And you can see we've added an entry in just a couple of seconds while we're on the phone with the customer. So there's many ways to do that, and it's very quick and easy. Or we can modify an existing entry and come back later. We could put a non-job related entry in later. When the job's created, we can come back and assign it if we wanted to. Another thing we can do is drag an entry and stretch it. So maybe I want to allocate more time to that time. I can simply drag and stretch, and you can see I've allocated more time to that entry. Another nice feature that we can is to reassign that. Perhaps the administration manager is not an appropriate person, and I want to give that to Andrea, so I can just drag that over to Andrea, and Andrea has now been assigned to that job. Now, appointments have various icons denoting the following functions. You can see the blue icon. That means it's in a recording status and the recorder is currently off. You can see up here some recording buttons, and we can see the play button, pause button, and the stop button. There's a posting button and a cancel button as well. We also have a retrieval status. Currently we're seeing a green clock. A green clock means there are actuals ready to be retrieved. A yellow clock, such as this entry here, indicates there are no actuals, it's an estimate only, and a red clock like this one indicates that the entry has already been retrieved. We have a couple of icons especially for quickly finding information on screen. So if I want to dim the entries that have no actuals, you can see there I can quickly see the other entries which do have actuals ready for retrieval. And I might want to dim those as well. And I'll just look at all the ones that have been retrieved. We can put those back on or off at any time. And the last one in the list is the recorders. So I can dim everything except those entries that are recording. So that's what the clocks stand for. So a yellow clock is no actuals, an estimate only. A green clock has actuals and can be retrieved, and a red clock has been retrieved. A blue clock is recording. The next icon you can see there is an anchor, and what that means is, you notice I can't get any grab handles with this entry and I can't move it around. I can't do anything to it because it's been anchored. If I double click the entry, you can see the anchor function has been added, and therefore I can't move that around. That could be where you have to be at that and you don't want anyone else to reschedule that entry. As opposed to these entries, which I can move around and reschedule wherever I want. There's one other icon here called link to phase, so that's a chain which links it to the phase. You'll see here, we go to job details, we've got the option to link it to the phase. Now what that does is it means that if you move the phase start time or end time, the time entry will accordingly move with it. So you might have a group of 10 time entries in a phase, and if you move the phase to reschedule it, all those time entries get automatically rescheduled if they're linked. This entry has a note, so you can see a pin denoting that there's a notation on the entry. If we open that up and we go to notes, we can see here, I'll edit that we're seeing the doctor and then having lunch with Bill Gates. Lucky man. The last icon is this one over here on the right, which is a warranty job. Now, that's denoting in-house warranty. That means that this job, we were out there previously on a job and we might have given them 30 days warranty on that job, and they've called back in, and so we're now working on an in-house warranty job. That's opposed to manufacturer's warranty, which might be on the equipment itself. This is the warranty that we give for the work that we do. There are several different types of view. We're in a day view now. Let's move to a week view. And you can see here we can move to a week view or a month view. See a month at a time. Also move to what's called the timeline view, which just flips the axes around, so we've got our resources on the left and our time across the top now. I'll just move that back to our date of the 11th because that's where we've got some sample data. And we can see there we've got our time view. And you can draw an entry in there and right-click and add appointments and do all sorts of things from that view as well. Let's go back to our day view for a moment. At any time we can change our time scale. You can see here we're currently at an hourly time scale and the red line is denoting the time it is now. If you want to change the time scale, you simply come up here and you can quickly move. I might want to go to 30 minutes and you can see that we're drilling in 15 minutes and I can see what time's available for those appointments. The white area on screen is our business hours, and if you just simply want to move to business hours, you can press the business hours function and it will maximize business hours from whichever view you're on in the screen. Now, we have a resource dock over here. What's handy is that I can remove someone from screen. You see if I turn admin off, admin's now disappeared from screen. I want to turn Anna off, Anna's disappeared from screen. So we can hide and bring resources on and off the screen quickly doing that. If you use your shift button and click more than one resource and right click, you can select to remove or add resources according to the options that are available. So I can take all the resources selected or all except, all above or below, only these resources, etc. If you quickly want to turn them on and off, you can use these toggle buttons. That turns off all my employee resources. Now I'm just seeing equipment resources. If I want to turn the subcontractors off, I could do that. I'd only have equipment resources on screen. Another nice thing is if I click on a resource and I'd like to see all the other resources that might be assigned to that job, I can quickly do that by moving to the job list view. And I'll load that up in a job list view and you can see that currently I'm the only resource in that on that particular view. If I go across and I try that one, let's try that one, and we'll go to the job list view. And you can see there are other people working on that job as well. So it's a nice handy way to quickly move between resources. I'll move back to the calendar view. Let's look at the color options. We've got a very fancy screen here with a lot of colors there, a lot of red there. So what does all that mean? We go to appointments, coloring, and we'll pin that. And you can see here that the red is priority 1 jobs, orange is priority 2, there's an orange one, a yellow one being priority 3, and the blue ones are priority 4 and the grey ones are priority 5. 1 usually being urgent, 5 being not so urgent. So we're currently colouring by priority. Let's colour by agreement. Now we're colouring by agreement, so those that aren't on agreement are hashed. The platinum ones are orange and plan 1 is the yellow one. Very easy to see by agreement. We can look at by customer. Now the system will automatically define colours for each customer. You don't have to do that. And then we can quickly see all the jobs for the same customer, which can be handy. So Ronald Black, the green ones, Park and Marta, the blue ones. We can colour by job. Again, the system will colour all those for you automatically. And then it's easy to identify people that are on the same job because we can see there those entries relate to the same job. Let's look at job type and we can see all our job types. So maintenance jobs are blue jobs, yellow jobs are service jobs. Let's have a look at maintenance jobs. You can see there are blue jobs. We've looked at priority. Let's look at status. So now we're colouring by status and you can see there an escalator job is the green one. We can see the grey ones are pending and the orangey ones are active. One I particularly like to use is on-site. When an engineer is on-site, if they're using our VM mobile software or they're connecting via the web, we can see as soon as they're on-site when they change the job status, and that would appear here on our scheduling screen in the on-site colour, and then we can see all the employees where they are on-site. We also have a zone option, and zones are set up in class types on the desktop, and we could use zones as suburbs, territories, postcodes. We can set up as many records in the zone class type as we like. So you can see where the guys are in the north, guys in the west there, west zone. And lastly, you can colour by selecting no colouring, and no colouring is still coloured, I guess, but it's coloured by the employee, so there's no indication of what those jobs are doing by colour, it's just by employee. Let's go back to priority, which is the standard or the default colouring function. You can also look at employees' skills. Now notice here, if I hover over admin, we can see he's an engineer and an electrical certificate. He has an electrical certificate. Andrea has an electrical certificate too, is Microsoft certified, and Clarence has an electrical certificate and is an engineer. We'll just stay with those three for a moment. So if I come over to the skills doc, and we'll just bring that out a bit and pin it there for a moment. Now if I want to see all engineers, notice that admin and Clarence are appearing. If I click those with an electrical certificate, I still don't see Andrea because I'm doing an AND, so they have to be they have to have both those skills. If I do an OR, notice that Andrea now appears because she has at least one of those skills. So we've got an AND OR option up there, which can be very handy. So I can then see if any one of those are available, and I can schedule them to do a job. Next, let's look at work groups. So we'll look at work groups. I'll just take that pin off on the skills first, and we'll just look at work groups, and we'll pin them. So some people have employees in work groups, and they work as a team. If I just want to see the employees in Service Team 2, I can click that, and I'll see Service Team 2 employees. If I want to see employees, this would be better to have an OR function on here if you wanted to see multiple groups, because if I choose, say, the diagnostic group and employees aren't in both groups, they just disappear. If I go OR, I get all three employees because they're in either of those groups. So that's Service Team 2, that's Service Team 2 and Diagnostics, and that's Diagnostic Group. So we get all of them appearing, which is very handy. I can then schedule all the employees in that group as required. Now down the bottom we also have some docking panes. We have a job equipment. Let's look at that one, and I'll pin that for a moment. Whoop. Too slow. Okay, so when I click on an entry, you can see I'm seeing the equipment on that entry. And that particular one there, that has 3 equipment on it. Now, let's move off that for a moment. So we can pin that away. When a dock is pinned, you can grab the dock title bar and you can move it quickly and pin it. And if you want to pin it to this other side, you can see I've now pinned it to the right dock. So if we look at that, you can see it's now, just let it pin away, you can see it's now pinned to the right dock. That can be handy. Some people prefer to see all their docks on their docking panes on one side. So to move a dock, you simply pin it first, grab the title bar and drag it to one of the pointers, let go, and that will pin accordingly. And you can see now we've got our job equipment pinned there. So if I click on an entry, we can see any equipment that's on that entry. There's our geothermal turbine on job 137, which we created earlier. The next dock we have is our current details dock. So when you clicked on an entry, if you click current selection, it is focused on that entry. It will give us information about the current selection. If I click on another entry and click there, we get information about that entry. And you can see here I've got contact details, and I can email that entry, or I could look at a map by clicking on the address details. It's very handy. So if you're on the phone or you've just got off the phone with your engineer, let's say, and the engineer's delayed and you want to, and this is their next job and you want to call them and tell them they're going to be a delay, you might get details of their phone number, or you could simply just select the current selection and email them, let them know they're going to be a delay. We can view time entry actuals and time entry estimates that are appearing on screen for that day. So these will list all the actuals and all the estimates for the day, not the particular entry you clicked on. And there's a notification list which will give you warning notifications if there are any errors, etc. And I tried to delete an entry before, but the time entry exists for that employee already and I couldn't delete it. Now, one other thing we could do, which is very nice, obviously when we're scheduling, is we'd like to print a work order. So if I click on an entry and I come up to, or I'm on an entry for Andrea, I can come up to print. I can print a daily appointment listing for Andrea, which would print a summary of all Andrea's jobs for today, or a work order job card. So let's do a daily appointment listing first, and I'll do it with no details just so we can see what that looks like. So we can see here, I might print that out and give that to Andrea, and there's a list with all the appointments scheduled, jobs and the people that she's going to, and we can see a rough timeline here that we're expecting that work to be performed in. Let's look at that report once more, but this time we'll just bring out some job detail. And you can see we've now got job detail, which gives us a little bit more information about where we're going and that sort of thing. So it's a summary. You might attach this to all the work orders so they can keep that as a summary. Next we can print a work order, so let's do that. And I'll just print a work order or a job card. And you could be emailing this to your employee now, which would be a common thing. You've just added the entry, you've booked the schedule, and I'll email this to them so they've got it on their mobile. And you can see we've got our work order all nicely completed. Now, a really nice feature is if you use your Shift key and select more than one work order, or Control key if they're non-contiguous, and you press work order job card, you're going to print all 4 work orders. So we select print, and that will just print all 4 work orders for us. And you can see job 82 there, job 137, 142, and so forth. So that's a really handy feature to print more than one work order at once. Now when you're on an entry, you can press a mapping function here, and that should take you directly to that map. If you get a blank, it's usually because the address is inaccurate and you haven't got information about that user. Try one more here. I'm not sure whether my sample data is just, there's one there, and you can see that's got a valid address, and so it's taken us into the map. Just while we're there for a moment, if you want to zoom in, you just simply point wherever you want to point and double click with your left mouse button, and you'll zoom directly in to the location where you're pointed. You can go to a bird's eye view or an aerial view. We'll talk about that more when we do routing, and we can print that map if we wish. So that's selecting the map function. Now the appointment summary icon over here allows you to view appointments for the day, the week. So if you just want to see this week's appointments, you can press that, and it gives you a summary of this week's appointments. So we had 2 jobs on the 7th, and we've got 23 jobs on the 13th created with 37 appointments and 2 resources involved. So that gives you a nice job summary. Now I'm logged in as the administration manager, and if I select my jobs, you'll see that we'll only see the administration manager jobs. There is a security function in ACPAC Security for ServiceManager that will prevent you seeing anyone else's jobs. In other words, you'll have a My Jobs only view. So if I can't do that with admin because admin's got all rights, but if I was another user and I didn't have security to see only, or I had security to see only my jobs, when I log in, I'll see my jobs only, and I can quickly use the scheduler myself to reschedule and do things for my jobs. Now, one very nice feature is that we can sync to Outlook using this icon over here. So if I click Sync Outlook, let's bring that onto screen, we can see that we can sync to Outlook. If I just want to take admin's entries, I can choose which entries I'd like to sync. Today's entries, I can specify a date range. So if I just wanted to see today's entries in my sample data, I'll just get today's entries. You can see those listing there now. And I could email those entries to my employee. I could email them as a task so that when they open Outlook, they're set up as a task. Or I can email them as an appointment. When they open Outlook, they'll have an appointment for that entry with all the details. We have a full layout function here on the right. So you can lay out your details. Your task, appointment, or email will all utilize this layout. And you can see here on the right, we have tables that we can choose from. You can just simply drag a field out, and you can type in text there, and that email, task, or appointment will be formatted accordingly. We can even put equipment details there, and you can see our equipment information, number, serial number, warranty dates, those sorts of things, agreements. And if you have items or services, you can even show those on the job as well that you're bringing. And you simply press email, task, or appointment to launch that, and that will send one of those types of options to the designated employee. Now, sync only works one way. It will only sync to Outlook. You can't make a change in Outlook and have it update advanced scheduling. We hope to bring that to you in a future release, but not for first release. Now we've got some basic icons up here. We can go to a specific date as we saw, or we can open the pane and just choose a specific date anyway. So to refresh, you can choose a selected period if you want to move to a different year to view an advanced schedule. Perhaps you want to book something for a couple of months away. You can see here we can move to a previous month quickly, the last 7 days, or yes, the previous day quickly, or the next day, next week, next month very quickly. We go to the first appointment or last appointment. So just a couple of icons that we can move to quickly. We can change the timescale on the left down this side by choosing one of the timescale options. Move to business hours quickly. We can toggle the auto zoom. These are grayed out because they're not available in this particular pivot view. Currently looking at a day view. We can go to a work week or a general week, and we saw our all view and our time entries. We've now got that pretty much concludes the sorts of things that we can do in Calendar. It's a very powerful view, and it's very Outlook-alike, so it's quite intuitive to use because most of us know how to use Outlook already. I encourage you to play with it. You can't hurt anything. Create some time entry estimates. You can delete those at any time, and I hope that's been a valuable lesson today. Thank you.